I cannot say enough good about my mother, Karma McGregor McAllister. I owe everything to her. Any success that I had as a mother can be attributed to habits and patterns that I acquired from her. And much of the happiness that I experience now in my life is directly related to things that she taught me. She had a kind, thin, oval face with green eyes.
Mom was 5'8", and she was slender, and she was never overweight in her life, and she was always moving.
When I was a child, my mother had very, very long brown hair. I mean, I remember went halfway down her back. When I was maybe 7 or 8, she cut it, and she kept it short the rest of her life. But she did have beautiful hair. It stayed dark for a lot of years, even when it was going gray.
This is her braid, the dark hair, and this is mine. But of course when I was much younger, so I kind of suspect when she was young, she had hair this color and it got darker as she got older. As I look at pictures of her childhood, she looks more like she has this honey colored hair.
Grandma's hair was always perfect. I remember that. It was always just, it looked beautiful.
She was an attractive woman, always well groomed. She wasn't obsessed with her appearance, but she was always clean and neat. She was refined, a lady. She never used harsh language, never acted tough, but she was always gracious and feminine.
She was always very well groomed. She always took very good care of herself. She wasn't gaudy or showy in any way. In fact, I think just the opposite. She always looked very nice, but she was not there to attract attention to herself, either in the way she acted or in the way she dressed. She was very refined. She spoke very well.
So she was healthy and hardy and a hard worker, and not afraid to get dirt under her fingernails. And
She liked working outside in the flower beds, and our yard always looked beautiful.
so this is Mother's favorite plaid shirt, and whenever she worked in the garden or with her flowers or in the orchard, she loved wearing this. And what amazes me, this is how good cotton material was in those days. She wore this years and years, 25 years or more, and yet you can see it's not that faded, and she was out in the hot sun. When it got really hot, she would wear one of Dad's long sleeve white cotton shirts, and like a dress shirt, so that she'd have her arms covered. But when it wasn't that bad, then she'd wear this. Now, if I turn it around, you can see the tatters. You can see where it started to wear through. But then when I found out later, Marceline made this for her. And so all the stitching, the buttonholing, everything Aunt Marceline made. When she was working at home, she was either in her pants and the little plaid shirt that I showed you, or she was in what we call a house dress. And in those days, women, especially when I was little, not so much later, but when I was little, women would wear dresses to do their housework. They were house dresses, that's what they called them. But when she dressed up to go out with my dad, either dancing with Debonaires, which was their dance club, or for any other reason, oh my goodness, all she had to do was just, jump in the tub, comb her hair, and put on lipstick. And she was just ravishing. She needed hardly anything else. She was just a beautiful woman, and she had a beautiful presence and a beautiful carriage and a beautiful spirit. And that's really about all she needed to really look gorgeous.
And Grandma always dressed nicely. She just beautifully nicely. She looked just always all put together.
And I remember her wearing hats, but I wasn't sure if it was this particular one.
Yeah,
I thought this had a veil, because hats used to have a little bit of a net veil and a hat pin. And you'd wear it.
You
I don't
stick
know,
the
you
hat
wear
pin
it-
through your butt.
Yeah,
and
you
through
wear
your
it
hair.
like this with the little veil coming down.
Kind of to the side. She'd wear it kind of on the side.
Yeah.
The picture that I think of is her in that purple blouse. That to me is Grandma. When I see that, it's her.
This sat on the dresser, and that's the only thing she ever kept her jewelry in. Aunt Mary Whitehurst, who was like a second mother to Mom, gave her this.
To describe Grandma, I would think of a beautiful, fresh cut bouquet of pink flowers in milk glass vase, just on the table shelves.
Mother was very kind, and she was very tender-hearted. She was sensitive.
She was more outspoken than my father. She expressed her feelings and encouraged us to talk about ours.
I don't think money was important to her. I think kindness was. And so she traded in kindnesses. All of her friends were equal friends to her. She never had friends where she gave to, but they never gave back to her. You could see every time you met a neighbor that she loved, or I was introduced to a friend at church, that it was a very equal relationship. And it was in kindnesses. There was great wisdom in how she lived.
She was very much of a hands-on participant in the ward and in the neighborhood and in the church.
My mother had a faith in God and taught us to pray. We always had family prayer, kneeling around the kitchen table before we ate.
She always went the extra 10 miles at everything she did. Yeah, and she served with all her heart. When she was the gospel doctrine teacher, she was so concerned about that calling. And she was a fabulous teacher, but she would spend all week long studying, and so that she could teach 10 hours worth of material, and she would teach 1 hour worth of material. I mean, she was very dedicated at every calling that she ever had.
She served faithfully in the church all her life. I think she really enjoyed her mission because she was able to delve into the scriptures. She had more time and could do that with more depth than she ever had. And I think she really was stimulated and enjoyed that.
She was a true follower of Christ. She was. She embodied the attributes of Christ on a daily basis and taught me in everyday living how to be Christ-like. She really did.
She had a positive, cheerful personality. That doesn't mean she was never sad, but she looked on the bright side of things. And almost all of her life, she looked younger than her age.
She was very kind and gentle. I say she's no nonsense. And what I think what I mean by that is, I don't know, she just was who she was, and very true to herself. How about that?
She was quiet. She was not particularly dramatic. She was very, very cool, very level-headed. Cool may not convey the right sense. She was very kind and loving, very practical in the way she thought, in the way she approached problems and found solutions to problems, and in the way she interacted with people. She was very pragmatic.
I think she would try almost anything. She was the fix-it mom. She would take the toaster apart and put it back together. She rewired lamps. She repaired the iron and the sewing machine.
Yeah, I remember her using that typewriter a lot. And I remember her cleaning it and repairing it. And you know, she was good at maintenance of whatever we had.
She was busy and working hard and running around, but I never felt like she rushed me. I never felt like she was too busy to stop and help or to listen, which was unusual because she moved mountains, but she never made you feel rushed.
She had a gift for detail, and just the right detail.
I remember my mother being very meticulous and very particular about what she was doing.
And everything she did looked beautiful. She never did anything halfway. In fact, I remember her saying, "Don't do anything halfway."
Yeah.
She really was a perfectionist. And so I remember her teaching me to be that way. I mean, when I remember her saying, anything worth doing is worth doing well. And she would teach us how to do something well. And if it was half done, we'd redo it until we got it right. She wasn't mean about it. She wasn't, I didn't feel beaten or persecuted about it, but there was a level of expectation that where you couldn't just do something half done and figure that you were done. Whether it was, she spent a lot of time with us on homework, on papers, working with me specifically, and or teaching me how to knit or to sew, or those kinds of things, where there was just a standard of perfection that was expected.
And she always completed everything. You didn't stop in the middle of a job. If it meant staying up all night to finish making jam, she'd stay up all night and finish the jam. She wouldn't go to bed.
She'd get frustrated when she was overwhelmed with too much to do or too many things happening. And part of that, I think, was because she took on so much and she wanted to do everything perfectly. And so those of us who are perfectionists in the family come by it honestly. Okay.
She didn't like being in the spotlight. It made her uncomfortable, but she was unusually competent. Speaking before groups, though she taught and many lessons and did speak before groups, but it made her self-conscious and nervous. But interestingly enough, she raised very confident children who've over the years spoken and performed a lot. She expressed to me once that an opportunity would come up to do something. She would hesitate, and then someone else would do it, and she recognized the fact that she could have done it better, but she just lacked the initial confidence.
I think that there were times when she lacked self-esteem, when she didn't see herself as able as others saw her, which I feel bad about. But there were times when she was extremely confident in herself and in her abilities and what she could do, and in solving problems and addressing crises that would occur. When she acted very admirably and very sensibly, and that where people could draw strength, particularly her children could draw strength from her.
Mother was intelligent and loved learning. She loved nature. She was interested in knowing the names of birds and plants. She had a tender heart and a reverence for all living things.
She loved nature, and she knew the names of all the plants. If you said to her, "What's that?" she could always tell you the name of the plant, of whatever plant
And
it
if
was.
she couldn't, she'd go find out
And she-
what it
right.
was.
Right. Right.
Because she liked to use the name of what it really was. She loved good music and literature. She listened to classical music. I remember every Sunday afternoon she would listen to the Long Jean Symphonette. She sang us lullabies. The songs that I sang my children and my grandchildren are the songs she sang to us. Tura Lura Laura, Brahms' Lullaby, Over the Rainbow. She loved musical theater, and I remember her singing songs from the Song of Norway and from the Student Prince was another one.
That she would sing whenever she was doing work or around the house. She'd sing, she'd whistle, and it was unusual for women to whistle. And I loved to hear her whistle and sing.